Hey everybody, Richard Gaming Guy here. Today in this video, we're going to jump in and check out the Anbernic RG35XX handheld video game console. So we'll do a full unboxing. We'll see what this has to offer in terms of layout and design. And then of course, we're going to boot it up, take a tour of what comes pre-installed and preloaded on here. And then we'll test out the performance. Let's dive into it. All right, guys, here we have it. The Anbernic RG35XX. So we'll go ahead and open this up. So I'll move the handheld aside for right now. Let's see what is underneath here. So we have a cleaning kit as well as a screen protector, which is secured right inside here. You can see it right there. I'm not going to install that here, but certainly always a nice addition to keep your screen well protected. We also have a user manual right here as well. You can open that up, take a quick glimpse at what it has to offer here. So it does walk through all the different functions and features. Layout for the controls, a couple different languages here. All right, so it does seem to be quite thorough, which is always a good thing. And then inside here, I imagine we have our Type-C charging cable, as we typically will get from Anbernic. So let's see if we can open this up. Perfect. Yeah, so it's USB-A to USB Type-C. Type-C is going to connect over to the actual handheld. Other end, you can plug into a PC to charge it up or into a power outlet that supports USB-A connection. So let's go ahead and put this aside. Now let's take a look at the actual handheld here. All right, guys, here is our Anbernic RG35XX handheld video game console. Now, this looks really sharp. I like the way that we have that translucent purple here. Reminds me of an old school Game Boy Color. 3.5-inch IPS screen on here. And we have a 4-button configuration. We have our D-pad located over here. Definitely feels like these buttons are pretty elevated. You can see the side profile there. They do stick out quite a ways. Same thing with the D-pad. Sits very high on the handheld, but it feels very comfortable to actually navigate with the D-pad. I will say that buttons are very responsive, even though they do sit quite high. So some people like that higher button configuration. Some people like them to be a little bit tighter to the, the surface of the handheld itself. I honestly like them high like this. It feels really good. It doesn't require much to hit those buttons. Start and select located right up here as well. And then we have the dual analog sticks, which is a nice touch. And we do have the L3 and R3 button function built in there. They definitely feel quite nice. I definitely want to check that out in game, of course. And now we have our L1, L2, R1, and R2 shoulder and trigger buttons located right at the top. Now, holding on to this, it does sit in my hands very nicely. It is very comfortable to hold. However, these kind of I feel like the trigger buttons are actually easy to hit. But to hit the shoulder buttons, I really have to pull my fingers apart like this. It doesn't feel natural. It feels very awkward to actually, slide all the way over and hit those. The action is very good. There's no sweet spot, so it doesn't matter if you hit it right up here where it's labeled R1, or on this side, L1, or if you're hitting it all the way over here in the far corner, right in the center. The action is consistent throughout the entire button. But yeah, it feels a little bit awkward to then have to take your finger over here and then pull away that way. I feel like it would definitely hinder, hitting the buttons and navigating at the same time. So just a little bit awkward there. Now, taking a look at the top of our handheld, we have a bunch of different ports up here. So we have our audio jack right here, so you can plug in our headphones. We have our OTG Type-C connection right here. Our HDMI port, so that's a mini HDMI right there. So you can take a mini HDMI to regular HDMI cable, connect it over to this handheld, and then bring it up to a monitor or TV screen. So that's a nice feature of this handheld as well. Over here we have our DC OTG Type-C port as well. This is going to be the one that we actually charge off of. And then we have a function button. Now if we go over here to the right-hand side, we have our power button and our reset button over here. Other side is going to have our volume controls. So plus is to bring the volume up, minus is to bring it down. I like the fact that we do have, the ability to adjust the volume externally. Now down here at the bottom, we have our 2 micro SD card slots. Now I'm going to open these up, or eject them rather, and let's see what we have in here. Now this is going to depend on where you actually get your handheld from. You could have different configuration and different capacity cards, but we've got a 64 gigabyte card in slot 1. And slot 2 is, I would imagine, 128 gigabytes. All right, I was going to say maybe 64 again, but 128 over there. So that is nice. Now, these are a little bit difficult to eject and then to reinsert, but believe it or not, that's a good thing because you don't want to run the risk of accidentally ejecting those while your handheld is powered on. That's always a terrible thing to do because you could easily corrupt your micro SD card that way. So it's actually good that it does take a little extra effort to eject those and to reinsert those. We have speakers down here at the bottom. We have these two little strips on the back that make it, just a little something to grip onto there. It kind of steadies you. You see where my fingers line up. They line up right on those strips. So definitely a nice thought that they added those. And also, if you were to put this down on a desk like this, it adds a little grip on here. You can still slide it, but it's not the same as if it was just the smooth plastic on the back. If somebody toss this down quickly, it's going to stop right away. It's not going to slide across a desk or anything like that and potentially slide off the other side. So definitely it seems like this is a very well thought out handheld. Now let's go ahead and power this on and comb through what it has to offer internally. Here we are powered on. So we have game rooms as well as R8 games here. Those are the first two collections. And actually when you go in here, because we have two micro SD cards, you can select which one you want to launch. So we're going to jump into that momentarily, but for right now, let's continue through these different options out here. We have a favorites collection. So this is a great way to add your favorite titles into its own folder for easy access. Over here, we have history. That's going to pull 50 of the last games that you jumped into onto this list. So if you are continuing a game from the previous day, easy way to jump back in here without having to commit to adding it to your favorites list. Next is a search function, which is an efficient way to jump in here and to search for specific titles. Next, we have our settings over here, and then we'll loop back around to game rooms. So let's go into game rooms, and let's go into micro SD card 1. So this is going to be our 64 gigabyte micro SD card. So we have PSP here. We have, and how many games do we have for PSP? Let's jump in here. We have a total of 11 games for PSP. We'll comb through here and see what titles are included. So we've got some God of War, Chains of Olympus, great game. Grand Theft Auto, Vice City Stories. Got some Mega Man, Metal Slug. We've got Ridge Racer, Tekken 6, Tekken 5. Good selection. We'll back out. PS1. How many PS1 games? We've got 29 in here. And we'll comb through here just to make sure that there's not duplicates or anything like that. But it does look like a pretty good selection. Some Ridge Racer in here as well. Resident Evil, Spider-Man, Tekken 3. Tekken 3 is probably my favorite PS1 game. Backing out, we have Vertical Arcade with 156 titles here. And you can see the screenshot for each of these games. We don't have a video preview because, this is a smaller capacity card, but still very nicely laid out. Text list seems to be well put together as well. Nothing seems to be misspelled or anything like that. The only thing I will say is the titles are not in alphabetical order. So like we have Lethal Crash Race in here, then it goes to Crush Racer, then Dangerous Seed. So it does seem like sometimes it's in alphabetical order, but there's some random ones thrown in there. But all in all, it is laid out pretty well regardless. There's just a few little surprises in there, I suppose, but for the most part, it actually does seem to be in alphabetical order. Again, there just seem to be a few random ones that don't really make sense, but not a huge deal. Continuing on, we have Capcom System 1, 2, and 3. We have Neo Geo in here. We've got 152 Neo Geo games. Let's check out the Capcom collection. So 5 for Capcom System 3. Capcom System 2 has 36. And we have 30 for Capcom System 1. So those do seem to be pretty complete. FB Neo over here with 473 games. We have MAME over here with 493 games. And we may have some crossover between those two collections. Game Boy Advance, we have 232 games. And these are actually laid out very nicely where we have the box art, a screenshot, and a logo in the bottom right corner. It is very small on here, but still looks pretty good. We have NES with 432 NES games. That is huge because I don't know anybody that doesn't like Nintendo Entertainment System. We have Super Nintendo, 429 games. And it's a consistent layout throughout each of these collections, which is always a nice touch. Always want consistency. Sega Master System here with 353 games. Sega Mega Drive with 481 games. We've got Game Boy Color, 375 games. And everything seems quite clean as well. I'm not seeing duplicates anywhere. And Game Boy can be a mess if you know, the wrong person's putting this together and they're just kind of ROM dropping, because you know, you can easily end up with way more games than you should have for those collections. So original Game Boy, 403 games. We have PC Engine down here with 328 games. We have Neo Geo Pocket Color with 41 games. And we have Sega Game Gear, 328 games. And we have WonderSwan Color with 73 games. All right, so pretty sweet collection there. Definitely the focus here is on the more retro stuff, as I call it. So we don't have anything too recent on here, but certainly a nice selection of games, and it is a very nice layout as well, very consistent. So let's go into the larger 128 gigabyte micro SD card that is in slot 2. We'll jump in here now. So PSP, we have 15 titles here, so I believe that's a few more than what we had before. And they are different titles, which is nice. So we don't have the Tekken titles in here. We have some Soul Calibur, Broken Destiny. I love that game. Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max, Terminator. Definitely some good stuff here. PS1, we have 135 PS1 games. So definitely, you know, a solid upgrade over here. And not all of them seem to have the screenshot or box art. It seems like there's definitely some that, you know, don't seem to have that, but not a huge deal in the end. Vertical Arcade, we've got 156 games. Capcom System 1, 2, and 3 do look to be exactly the same as the previous card. Neo Geo, 99 games for Neo Geo. We've got FB Neo over here with 1,604 games. Definitely a massive upgrade over here. MAME has 1,392 games. Massive upgrade here as well. Game Boy Advance, 947 games. We have NES with 679 games. Super Nintendo with 1,099 games. So yeah, we're definitely seeing a massive upgrade, collection by collection over here on the larger micro SD card in slot 2. Sega Master System, 197 games. Sega Mega Drive over here with 649 games. Game Boy Color with 405 games. Original Game Boy, 729 games. PC Engine, 236 games. Neo Geo Pocket, we have 37 games. Actually, that was Neo Geo Pocket Color, excuse me. Sega Game Gear, 126 games, and WonderSwan Color, 66 games. So yeah, definitely a significant upgrade going with the larger capacity micro SD card. So we do get more games out of that. That certainly does make sense. All right, guys, so now what we can do is we can go over to RA Game, and now we can switch between the two different micro SD cards over here. So we'll go into the second one, the larger one, and you can see we get a different layout in here, and we also unlock some different collections. So we have Open Bore in here with 9 titles. We have Dreamcast in here with 9 titles. So Dreamcast has your Capcom versus SNK titles, Crazy Taxi 1 and 2, Dead or Alive 2, Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, as well as, Sonic Adventure 2, not the original one. And we also have Soul Calibur in here. So we do get some additional collections. We also have PlayStation, but we saw that before. We also have Atari and Virtual Boy. And everything else does appear to be the same. Oh, we got some Nintendo DS in here. We have some PC Engine CD. We have MSX and Atomic Wave and Naomi. All right, pretty sweet. Let's see. So we've got 7 Naomi games. How many Atomic Wave? We've got 5 Atomic Wave. We've got some ports as well. Let's go into the other one. So we have 12 actually in here, and that's interesting because this is the micro SD card slot 1. So the smaller capacity has more Dreamcast games. Over here we have Power Stone 1 and 2. We actually have House of the Dead 2 in here. We have Gauntlet Legends, my all-time favorite game. Crazy Taxi 1 and 2 again. We have Silent Scope down here. Virtua Tennis. We've got some really great stuff in here. So that's pretty cool. Open Bore has 8 titles over here. What else do we have? Atari and Virtual Boy. We have Mega Drive CD over here, and we had that on the last one too. 11 titles here. how many Nintendo DS games? 12 DS games here. Let me check this one out. All right, so it looks like the exact same layout here, exact same titles. Now, one thing that I noticed as I was kind of combing through things is that there appears to be absolutely no Nintendo games, or none of the like major ones anyways. So notice how we have no Donkey Kong over here, which we should have for Game Boy Color. And if we go over here to NES, I'm going to go up to S's, and we have no Super Mario. Like literally nothing for Super Mario Brothers, or nothing of that nature. So that's unfortunate. I even did the search on here. There's just literally nothing that would be your mainstay Nintendo titles. So definitely a a miss there. I think we can all understand as to why they're doing that, but it as a consumer, it's definitely unfortunate. I think a lot of people are going to be upset by that. So let's actually jump in here and see what the experience is like. I'm hot to see exactly how well everything performs here, and how well everything seems to feel on here too, because we do have that smaller scale handheld in front of us, and the shoulder and trigger buttons here, again, do feel a little bit cramped, more so the shoulder buttons than the trigger, but let's test this out and see what it's all about. I'm going to jump into micro SD card slot 2 just because that's the larger capacity card, so I'll have some more options here. Actually, I'll kind of go back and forth because there are some nice PSP titles on both sides that I want to take advantage of, so let's see what this is capable of.
Round 2. Fight! Round 1. Fight!
All right, guys, so we just took a closer look at the Anbernic RG35XX handheld video game console. Now, I really like the layout and design of this handheld. I think that it's really compact, easy to travel with. You can throw this in your back pocket. take it with you on the go very easily. So this is not to be compared with like a Steam Deck or one of those monstrous handhelds that are very cumbersome, yet do have tremendous capabilities. This is going to be much more limited, but it's going to be a little bit more of a casual sort of handheld to take with you on the go. So if you're looking for something that can rock through all the retro collections up through Dreamcast and PSP, this is definitely a great option for you. We had a great selection of titles included on both of the microSD cards included. Now, I will mention I was not able to locate any Super Mario Brothers or Donkey Kong games on here, so it seems like the majority of those really popular Nintendo games were left off. I can certainly imagine why that is, given the fact that that's, you know, Nintendo's copyrighted property and all that stuff. So I definitely get it, but as a consumer, I think a lot of people are going to want those titles. So it is a trade-off there. You can certainly add those yourself, but it is added legwork that you have to do on your own. So that may not be for everybody. It may be a deal breaker, but again, I do understand why that is happening. But in terms of the layout controls, I do really like everything that this offers. I was critical of the placement of the shoulder buttons on here, so your L1 and R1. You know, I did test out a bunch of games here. It's not as bad as I thought it would be because a lot of the games actually have the shoulder functions mapped to your L2 and R2, which are actually much more comfortable to actually hit. I find that I can hit those pretty easily, but when I do have to adjust over here, and I did that a little bit in Medal of Honor, not a whole lot. You know, I don't think we're going to actually use these functions as much as I thought we would, based on the fact that a lot of these titles are remapped to incorporate the usage of L2 and R2, but anytime I did have to do that, I do have to, you know, change my kind of grip on things. And even just moving out this way to hit those buttons, it does kind of throw off the feel of everything here. And it throws off, you know, just the feel of the buttons. So, you know, it's a little bit awkward in that regard, but not as big a deal as I thought it was going to be initially. Buttons are very responsive. Analog sticks are on point. Definitely like the way that this feels. It's very lightweight. Now, the audio on here is pretty good. I do find that it doesn't get super loud. Like if you max out the volume on this, you're going to find that it's never blaring or anything like that. It doesn't distort, which is a good thing. But for some titles, and anybody that's used to emulation, you know that your balance of volume is going to differ from emulator to emulator and collection to collection, and even game to game in a lot of cases. So you do have to kind of go up and down with the volume. But when you do get to that max volume level, with some collections and games, you may find that it still isn't as loud as you want it to be. So something to consider there, that, you know, the volume could get louder, I suppose, if you know, really, you know, being a little bit picky about things here. But at the end of the day, it is a very nice handheld, and it's at a pretty affordable price point as well. Give or take about $75. Now, prices do fluctuate, so don't hold me to that, because, you know, a lot of times I'll do videos like this and I'll commit to a price, and then like 2 days later, it either drops or jumps in you know, in increases. So, you know, at the time of this video, your average price is about $75, give or take, but that could certainly change in the future. So I think at that price point is a fair price point for what you get here. You do get very good performance. And, you know, the games and game collections that are offered here are games and game collections that actually work and perform the way that they should on the handheld. It drives me nuts when, you know, creators of these devices or the cards that go in these devices put together these massive collections of games that look really great and exciting, and then you jump into them and they just don't perform properly. That's not the case here. I jumped into a wide range of games and game collections, and everything performed as it should on here. So I think they did a nice job of including exactly what works on here, and, you know, staying away from any collections that, you know, may deliver questionable results in the end. So I did notice no N64 games were included on here. That could be because, you know, that's Nintendo stuff, or it could be because N64 just doesn't run the way that it should on this device. I'm not sure because I couldn't test it out today, but another thing to consider. So at the end of the day, weigh out the pros and cons, see if it lines up with what you're looking for. I'll put a link up here at the top of your screen, as well as in the description of this video, so you can click over, get some additional information on the Anbernic RG35XX. That's going to do it for today, though. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think of this handheld, and also what you guys think about them leaving off, you know, those mainstay Nintendo titles. So that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please give me a thumbs up on the video. And of course, hit subscribe to stay in the loop for all future videos right here on the Retro Gaming Guy YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.